The 5th season ended, so it's time to rank the 5 seasons of JoJo, starting with the easiest and least important of the bunch, the pretty colors. It's a lot easier to see the differences in the manga since the anime's smooth and Araki's changes in the drawing style. The overall impression of it is how it starts off as manly until the 3rd season, then it simplifies in the 4th, and then it becomes gay. This is obviously a personal preference, since the 3rd season was essentially a love letter to Fist of the North Star. Any of you who prefer gay lords with blue lips, faggish clothes and ridiculous hair colors are bound to love more the wrong seasons. Now let's talk about the best JoJo and why it's obviously Joseph. The guy was hilarious. He wasn't taking shit from anyone and he was always outsmarting the enemy with a smile. Plus he's the one who changes the most throughout the seasons as he gets older. Josuke comes second for being a lighter version of Joseph. More of a school delinquent in a tensionless setting, with a broken power that lets him negate negative consequences. Third is Jotaro for basically being homage to Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star. Yes, he can get boring with how stoic he is all the time, but it's part of the charm. Fourth is Jonathan for being your dull boy scout that wants to help people and make friends. And even that is preferable to fucking Giorno, a fan-fiction level of a character. He's not even a JoJo. The actual JoJo appears in the beginning, makes a phone call, and we never see him again. Call him the son of Dio all you want, and it still doesn't mean anything. He's reusing poses and words, but he's otherwise unrelated to him. He shouldn't even exist, since Dio was killing women, he wasn't impregnating them. Including all that, how the characterization of the 5th season was overshadowed by the horrible writing and the nonsensical stunt abilities, and you are left with complete garbage. Moving to the main villains, where obviously the best one is Dio. During the 1st season he was a stealthy manipulator, taking his time in gaining the trust of others before killing them and stealing everything they have. Once he becomes a vampire, he becomes more generic since there is nothing dramatic about him anymore. But even then he still shapes every season, even when he's not physically present, and has a great time while trying to be evil for the heck of it. After him come the Pillar Men, which I know most don't like very much, and I agree they are pretty dry and straightforward as bad guys. But hey, look at the competition. I know most of you are losing your minds over Kira, but let's be honest about what this guy really is. An office worker who has no ambitions and only wants handjobs from dead women. How is that remotely interesting? I would gladly pick the muscular Pillar Men who just want to take over the world while Awaken My Masters is playing in the background, over a disgusting necrophilic freakazoid who has no ambition and is on the same level as light novel rapists. If Dio was around, Kira would be a bottom rank 1-episode henchman. And obviously the worst of the bunch is Diavolo. He spends 90% of the season in doing nothing, and when he finally appears and is given the chance to shine, the stunts go crazy and he gets instantly foddered. Plus he's an ugly Gaylord. I was waiting 30 episodes to see how he looks, and I got another ugly Gaylord. Fuck the 5th season. Moving to the support cast. I like all of them, but because the first 2 arcs were too short, the characters were not given enough time to shine, and as such they felt like wasted potential. The next 2 arcs are way longer and fix this issue. Yes, the plot becomes an afterthought, but this is the payoff. And then we have the 5th season, which is complete garbage. They are Gaylords, they have no chemistry as a team, and their powers overshadow any specks of characterization the terrible plot attempted to have at times. There is not even something as simple as an emotional connection with any of them. Previous seasons were showing you why they were motivated to fight for, through relatives who were suffering and needed the heroes to stop the villain in order to stop the suffering. The 5th season has no such characters. Nobody has suffering relatives. They just say, drugs are bad, as a poor excuse for motivation, but there is no named character who actually suffers from the drugs. It's just nameless background characters nobody cares about, and as such there is nothing to feel sorry for the heroes. They come off as a bunch of Gaylords who are doing it all just for fame and money. Now let's talk about the pacing, which yes, it doesn't matter if you enjoy a show and only becomes an issue if you don't, but it's pretty interesting to see how different it was in every arc. The first arc was way too short and simple, so it felt like things were moving too fast. The second arc has by far the best pacing, as it's not only slower so you can appreciate what is going on, but it also has none of the meandering of the next seasons. And by meandering I mean the dozens of henchmen the heroes are fighting without any actual impact on the main plot. Yes, it's giving you more time to get to like the characters, but it also makes the plot go nowhere. What I can at least appreciate in the third arc is how the henchmen were trying to slow down the heroes, so Dio can get used to his new body. They were part of the story, even if the story was going nowhere. The 4th season doesn't have that excuse. The enemies they are fighting are to the most part random nobodies who do not belong in the same group and do not have common goals. As such, they are there just for making the arc longer, resulting in most episodes coming off as fillers, and the whole thing feels unfocused in general. But at least things are not as bad as the 5th season, which has the heroes going around and doing mini quests. They seem to be important so they can find the Mafia boss, but since it's the actual Mafia boss that gives them these missions, it comes down to trolling. The entire plot is just the boss telling them what to do with no meaningful reason, since they plan to betray him regardless of what happens. There is no sense of progress, you can skip 20 episodes and nothing will be different. Now for the action part. I agree that the battles become more elaborate with each passing season, and they make every fight more interesting as a result. It was uphill until the ending of the 4th arc, where the downhill begins. The stunts become so random at this point, they overshadow their own users. A bow becomes sentient out of nowhere and gives a power-up to Kira just for the heck of making the finale cooler. Towards the end of the 5th season, stunts get out of control and the characters swap bodies. We went from people using superpowers to superpowers using people. It's stupid. And it's even more stupid when people tell me the stunts are what define JoJo. No, they're not. I was watching JoJo for JoJo, not for overthinking how does King Crimson work. The last category I will talk about is tension, the one very few care about. You see, your typical JoJo tard is watching JoJo for the memes and the poses. He doesn't care about whether the actual show is exciting. The greatest excitement he gets is when he pretentiously overthinks the stunts and makes huge essays about how does King Crimson work. As such, I am in complete disagreement in this regard, since I was watching it to see muscular men fighting for the loved ones and losing half of their comrades by the end of it. Not for making memes and poses and wondering how does King Crimson work. As such, the tight pacing of the first 2 arcs works the best in terms of tension. The looser plot of the 3rd arc waters down the excitement, even if it gives more time for the secondary characters to shine better. The 4th arc is not only loose, it's also aimless to the most part, like any typical slice of nothing happens series. Previous arcs were about the characters knowing what they have to do, whom they have to fight, and where they have to go since the very beginning. Over here they are fooling around for 90% of the arc, and they have instant healing for taking away any sense of tension. Then some bow becomes sentient and gives a power-up as an excuse to have a final battle. Said power-up is essentially constant time resets, so negative consequences can go away. You can call it Diavolo Ex Machina all you want, and it's still going to be an excuse for the characters to keep returning to life after they die. And then we have the 5th season, which has no tension, because it has no plot, it has no characters, and the stunts go crazy just because. It gives you no reason to care about the slightest thing. But that is not what your typical JoJo tard is going to tell you. It's going to be the same bullshit excuses of randomness being a deconstruction because your expectations are constantly being subverted when you have no idea what is going on. And characterization is better when the heroes are defined by a single trait because you can self-insert easier. And the stunts having no specific way of working makes the battles fun because you never know who is going to win if nothing makes sense. After all, you're not supposed to think about the quality of an anime, you're supposed to enjoy anime, and then wait impatiently for more anime to enjoy.
So yeah, that's the end of Part 5, and I do hope that we get to see a Part 6 one day. Stone Ocean.
Don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited for next product.
And thus, this is my final ranking for the seasons thus far. You can now start disliking the video and ponder about the way King Crimson works. I'm not interested in the list about Part 6, it's going to be shit.
And apparently it does have a female JoJo, which is very unique, so I am kind of interested in that one because we really haven't had a female character as the main yet. I am currently 24 years old.